Welcome aboard, everyone. Simon here from the Wells of Wall Street. Quick fire chart updates here coming this afternoon. Veracity being one of the first ones, VRA on the chart. So, guys, obviously one of our favourite projects here at Wells of Wall Street. And, guys, I just wanted to pull the chart out a bit further just so we can see where we have come from. Those that are perhaps concerned about the big major reduction over the last few weeks, but actually it's been going on really for the last kind of few months in particular. Let's look at that in a bit more detail. But first of all, I want to point out, beginning of this year, guys, look at that. Very much under, well, a tenth of a cent, okay? And we managed to take it up to this new all-time high of 8.7 cents only a couple of months ago. A whopping 16,500% gain since the beginning of the year. We are approaching nearly the end of the year. Of course, it would be fantastic to see that finalize itself a bit further up to where we are right now. But in all honesty, I mean, even if we looked at that current position, let's say you missed even these top areas here, you still got a very nice, healthy 6,000% on your initial intake if you were buying around that area. Me personally, I was buying around the sort of mostly actually I think 1.5 and 2 cents mark across these kind of areas here. Didn't do anything in this uptake around April May time, but I did take advantage of some uptakes here throughout the October period and on the way down as we went through those videos as they happened with some buy opportunities. I think we hit two very nice areas, certainly 4.7 cents was I think our lowest one. Of course, it's come down a bit lower than that since then. I think we had a final one around 4.7 cents, I think. So it's a nice retracement in my opinion. Usually when you get to the all-time highs or certainly the top end, you can anticipate an up to 70% correction in that period of time. Never usually overnight. It's more of a case of waiting over a couple of months, sometimes 3 months or so, for that to happen. And that's clear as day that this is happening. I mean, we'll take this for example, around the 30th of October, where the top points were. And we've already had, since I think beginning of December, maybe 7 or 10 days ago, where we've hit the highest element of 67% reduction. So I always say between a 30% and 70%, and that's not just to cover myself with a very large number and look impressive. It's more so the fact that actually that is very much how it goes. And within that 30% and 70%, I see real verifications of what kind of moves we are doing. So we've already mentioned a while back about being in this bearish momentum, which is understandably evident here. And I think, in my opinion, we are tailing this off over the next couple of weeks coming. Of course, what you've got to understand is other variables around the world. It's not just about the project. What is going on around the world? We've got obviously the Bitcoin chart to think about. We've got things like here in the UK specifically of like variants of things and the world scenarios and all this stuff going on as well as the Christmas period, of course. Like some people may be taking money out because they're fearful, or maybe they're taking out because they want to spend it on their Christmas shopping and this, that and the other. There's a multitude of different things as to why this market has come in this way. And October is always usually a strong month anyway in general in terms of price indexes and things like that. So it's no sort of startling aspect to see this kind of decline. All I will say is that right now we're still very much ahead, just about, of our previous downward trend here that we saw between the beginning of September and end of September for the very nice uptake. So if you could extend that aspect of decline, we could be in for a very nice run up into the bull run coming. I don't anticipate this side of the end of the year, as it were. I certainly think we're going into next year, but what would be great to see in the next week or so is some stabilization of Veracity around this kind of area of 3 cents, because like I said, it will confirm that we've identified being above the 3 cent mark, which is something that we couldn't do down here. To bring it down further. So it's almost like a magnet around this area. And it does conclude as well what we said in previous videos. If you remember, we did look at some very interesting areas across the charts in previous history as well that we saw, particularly around April, and certainly around these areas that we saw in August, and the tip downs here in the middle of September as well. So we're very much floating around that area right now, trying to get some stability. So let's just take a look at that in a bit more of a macro level. So of course we've got the long term being overlapped by the macro here, and we can see that the touch element here is very much testing this area around the 3.2-ish mark. So on the 4th of December, we did drag it down to 2.9 cents. It retraced very quickly. That was the Bitcoin leveraging and everything else that went wrong on that day. We had one 2 days after that as well, not quite as low, but again, trying to drag it below 3 cents, couldn't do it. And now we're being pulled back with a slow magnet back to this 3 cent area. So it's very much an area of interest, that is for sure. What I would like to see is stabilizing around this 3 to 3.2 mark to really confirm this area, and then we can start positively. Once we've seen this for maybe another few days in a row, we can start feeling a lot more positive and taking this to another direction. So we've got a few indicators here. It looks like a mess, but actually it's not really that much to look at, so we'll explain it in a bit more detail as we go along, like we always do. So we've got a histogram here of over purchasing. Of course, we've had the second wave coming in, and that's tailing off. I'm not saying it's going to finish, but it's certainly reducing, which is very nice to see. The green volumes aren't quite here yet in general, but they are declining, which is interesting. So we'll get some stability and then confidence creeping in my opinion. What I'm more interested in is the MACD here. The gap is, I would say, narrowing very slowly. So that's why I said I think it's going to be about a week or two before we see a full switch over. But other things to consider a few days ago, which we touched upon anyway, was the RSI positions here. So 14-day at 29, which is very lucrative in my mind personally. And seeing that on a monthly one at 40 was a trigger point for me to purchase. And of course, we have come down slightly since then, but I'm happy with that move because we did have sort of the lows of 3.4, and we're at 3.2 now anyway, with a slightly higher RSI on everything. So at the moment, on a macro level, it's kind of confirming that we're moving in a very slowly trying to turn this around. It's not fully confirmed, but what is nice to see that retracement is pulling us back up here. So on the RSI on the 90-day, which is confirming our theory around the sort of 3-month perspective, we're hitting that 49 part mark, which is very much in the middle ground, obviously between 0 and 100. We do the math here, it's not difficult. But yeah, right now it's looking very stable on the 28-day, and the 14-day is grabbing itself back up towards 40. So when I talk about buying and selling as a trader's perspective, it's not financial advice obviously, but this is what I do, is when we're on the way down and we get to 40 mark, that's a really big buy opportunity for me. I will put in a good small stake in that area, and then I'll wait for dominant levels below that in incremental values, hence the DCA approach, and I do that on the way up as well. So I have 3 approaches here. I have an approach on a two week basis to measure that. So obviously if we shoot back up on a 14-day to maybe say like a 60 or a 70, I know that we're looking at kind of like the double your position as to when I purchased at these kind of times. And a similar principle in the future, if the RSI of the monthly goes up 40 to 80, 90, etc., I can do my DCAs based on these levels. I'm not really interested in the lower levels because I think for me that's a bit risky. When you get to the 50 marks, you're kind of like, well, this could go either way. You need more confirmation than that. So that's my positioning right now. Veracity, I've been buying this dip. I'm continuing to buy it. I've bought a few more earlier today just because I know the project. I love it. I think we're going to hit past the all-time high in the coming bull run as well, past hopefully that 10-cent mark. So there's a lot to gain still. I'm still sticking with my 21-cent prediction. Some were saying a lot more than that, maybe 30 cents, 50 cents, $1. I'm just being fairly realistic as well as reserved in the sense that we don't know where the top will be, but I'd be extremely happy to sell off a big portion of my Veracity around that 20-cent mark, that's for sure, and certainly around as we gather towards that 10-cent mark again. Obviously it was clear back here that we couldn't quite penetrate the 9 cents, so it's very evident that traders were looking at these kind of minimal positions, especially if you look at the fib retracement levels, very conveniently hitting those kind of areas. I'm just going to remove that Mac one all-time high line, sorry, so you can see this. So you can see that was a very interesting level, but not quite hitting the long-term ones. So very interesting times ahead. Like I said, I'd like to see some stability around this 3 cent mark or floating just above it, so we can start U-shaping this and taking this up. I'm not expecting a full U-shape, but certainly a staggered approach. Obviously, a couple of corrections still along the way, smaller ones, but I think we'll step ladder approach this over the next few weeks, in my opinion. I think it's just a question of getting the stability of this 3 cent markish area over the next week or two to pull this up across. Like I said, many variables out there. We might see a bit of an intake, perhaps towards the end of the year, where you get fluctuations of bonuses, or maybe some people getting money for Christmas or whatever. You just don't know. But I do think as January and February develop, more confidence kicks in. We enter the area of people recovering from Christmas expenditure. You've just got to look at this, because you've got retail investors. That's kind of the retailer's philosophy, but also the institutional level will want to be starting to maneuver their positions as confidence grows. So really interested in this. The project's phenomenal. It's not going anywhere. Irrespective of the price, I fully believe in Verasity. It's massive, great future ahead of it. And it's still, in my opinion, very early days, very undervalued compared to where it will be in the future. I'm really loving the the view to earn mechanism on VRA Esports as well. Go check that out if you haven't already. Check out our intro video as well if you are new to Veracity or you're new to the channel. We always have those at the end of the videos anyway, so you can check out our many reasons why we're interested in the project. And this, that, and the other. So hopefully that's helpful as well. But guys, let us know what you're thinking right now. Veracity, have you been buying this dip? Do you think there's more to come? What do you think about the end of year and end of bull run predictions? And what are yours as well? I'm still lazy. I haven't put any of these in the list, but I will still make sure I scatter through certainly the last 10 or so videos of Veracity, put everyone's price on there, and whoever was the closest at the end of the year will definitely be getting a ledger from myself. Via ledger directly, because that way it's official and not fake or anything. But guys, thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next Veracity update video. Bye bye.